Mm-hmm. All right, guys, this is the practice and notes worksheets on circles. I am going to ask you first to review 3 things somewhere on here. Find a little white space on the notes one. I want you to write down distance, midpoint, and slope formulas. All need to knows for tomorrow. Distance, midpoint, and slope.
Oh, see, I don't know the formula, but I just know how to do it.
I don't use the formula either.
Distance, midpoint, and slope.
Slope.
X squared, y squared, over square root of that.
Distance is a big messy,
Change in X.
yeah, that's what I do,
Yeah, I can go X.
okay? This is probably how you learned it. Okay? Everybody get distance?
Yeah.
What about midpoint?
It's x1 plus x2 over 2.
Yes, you are averaging. Nobody's going to subtract, right? You're averaging the x's and the y's, so you just add and divide by 2. Does that sound right? Find the middle. And slope? Slope is actually the one we don't need today for anything. I just wanted to review real quick.
Y is equal to mx plus b.
Change in y over change in x, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b, okay? But it's not slope between 2 points is what I was thinking about. All right. The geometric definition of a circle is all points the same distance away from a certain given point, okay? That certain given point is called the center, and what is that same distance that they all are away called?
Radius.
The radius, okay? So it is actually related to this. What is this that we just wrote down? This is the distance formula, right? That distance in a circle is called the radius. So they don't write it like this. They get rid of that big square root. How could we get rid of that square root?
Square it. R squared equals.
And they change the letters a bit to look like that. And these two, HK, is called the what?
Center.
Is the center. And R is the radius.
We can write this down.
That's okay. Well, it's on the next slide here. But, yeah, we are going to write it down for... Now, this is just kind of an aside. It's kind of fun. You can't graph these nicely on your calculator because they have an x squared and a y squared. And everything we graph on our calculator, we have to get in y equals form, or we have to use parametrics, and it just gets really messy, okay? You can actually graph circles, but you end up with a disaster where you have to put half a circle in y1 and half the other half of the circle in y2, and it's messy.
Can you like take it and get the y by itself?
You can, but that's what I'm saying. You're going to have a plus or minus square root of something. And so then you have to put the positive square root in 1 and the negative square root in y2 so that it graphs half the circle and then the other half of the circle. We'll do some when we do the conics unit, okay? But this is a really cool online calculator. It's super easy to find. It's just desmos.com. It looks like this when you go there. And you just type things in. When you go into one of these little boxes, if I turn off the ink here. You go into one of these little boxes and it brings up things down here. And you just type in X's and Y's. It's awesome. So if I turn this first one on, anybody know what shape I'm going to get?
Circle.
A circle where? Whose center is at
4.
0, 0, and the radius is 4. Does that seem okay?
Yeah.
This one is going to have
Raise of 2.
radius of 2, like a bullseye, right? It's right inside the other one. Now, what about this guy?
It'll be up
Radius is
to.
3, and it's
Radius is 3, and it's shifted up to, because it changed the y,
Whoa.
okay? This one is shifted
Right 4.
right 4 down to and has a radius of 4. Okay,
Oh my gosh.
this is a preview of next chapter. Right here. What do you think that 3 is gonna do?
It's a ellipse or whatever,
It's
it's
an
wider.
ellipse.
Stretch it.
It's gonna stretch it somehow, one direction only.
3 horizontally? Oh, no, no, no.
It's actually,
The opposite
yeah,
direction.
it's shrink vertically, but we'll talk more about it next week. It's because you have to divide to get, we'll talk about them eventually, but it's called an ellipse, okay? And really, I just love that you can fiddle with this calculator so easy. If we change that to a minus in there, then it's a hyperbola. It takes the ellipse and breaks it apart and has these two goofy, okay. So that's the fun we're looking forward to in chapter 11, all right? I just was really excited to show you that online calculator that's super easy to use. Hyperbola is like, it's like this. It's two, almost two parabolas. The difference is on a hyperbola, they're getting closer and closer to an asymptote. The basic formula for hyperbola is like this. Let me go back here. This is actually a hyperbola, 1 over x, which looks like this. We're just going to do ones that are stretched and shrunk and moved somewhere else. But all right. Anyway, circles are today. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so the standard form of a circle, what are we going to write? We
Uh,
just saw it on the last slide. There we go.
done.
Equals? All right, good job. And great review for tomorrow. Area of a circle? Okay. Remember, area is square units, so it's the one with a squared. Cheater?
That was from freshman year.
Wait, what?
Did you see it?
She has things written in her calculator lid.
Oh, that's smart. I
Okay,
remember one
Can
time
you
I had a
make a
test and my
program?
programs, I didn't have any programs, so I made programs and I
You
named
can-
them the project.
yeah, you could just go in and write in formulas.
It's great. Everyone
Um,
should do it.
But circumference, it has the same numbers, but it's not squared, so it's 2 pi r.
Or is it pi d?
Or you can write twice the radius is the diameter, so you could use that one as well.
How do you guys?
Okay? Are you gonna remember those for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you do 2 and 3 real fast?
I could. In the,
Oh, wait, can you go back for like half a second?
Oh, the drawing is so hard. I always hated this. Like it looks like a square.
Yeah, mine don't turn out very round unless I cheat and use the little. Don't forget it's the opposite, so it's 2, -3, and a radius of 2. So I usually just go 2 each direction and then I attempt to draw a circle. Or I cheat and use the tool on the smartboard.
Boop.
That's so cute.
You're such a great artist.
I'll do the next one by hand so you can see how truly untalented I am, okay? What's happening on this one?
Goes left
Left.
1. And it has radius 6.
Okay, so we're right over here.
This is a butterfly.
Woo.
Don't laugh at
Looks
her.
like a
She's
diamond.
beautiful.
Oh, it looks like mine.
Okay,
You can put
part
the-
of it's pretty good. It's just really, I could do better if I went to the board, but the slate makes it very difficult. Are we okay? All right, can you write the equation here?
Everybody equation.
X minus 4 squared plus y minus 3, no, 6 squared.
Will be
No,
like-
yeah, and then is equal to 3 squared. Is equal to 9.
No.
Is equal, I don't know.
It's equal to
81.
Oh.
Yeah, it's radius squared,
Tricky.
okay?
Well, I'm gonna fail the ACT.
We all are.
I'm pretty confident that you're all gonna do well.
See for yourself, Mrs. Hopper.
Okay. we could use distance formula here, but
I'm not going to.
I'm not going to, because these both have a negative 15, so they're how far apart? From 3 to negative 1 is just 4 units apart. And that's the radius, right? From the center to the circle is just called the radius. So it would look like what?
X plus 15 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16.
Are we all good?
Yeah.
Hold up. Where? Oh, I took a conic. Conic?
Okay. Now, normally, no one would ever ask you to do what I'm asking you to do here. But I want you to see how it relates to going the other way. So I'm gonna ask you to FOIL this all out,
Wait, what?
okay? So if I do x minus 7 times x minus 7, what will I get?
X squared minus 14x plus 49
Okay? And a y minus 1 times a y minus 1?
plus y squared minus 2y plus 1 is equal to 16.
Okay. The actual form is usually this.
Oh.
X,
What's happening?
something like that, or plus e equals 0 or something. Sometimes they make them equal to 0. So if we just rearrange this, they would write x squared plus y squared minus 14x minus 2y, and then they'd probably move everything else over to the other side. So minus 49, minus 1. I don't know, what is that, 34?
Negative 34.
Ooh.
Okay, so this is the conic form, and sometimes they make it plus 34 equals 0. I don't know which way. Some books do one, some do the other. Okay, that's the conic form. Normally, we would never do that, but they're gonna give us this form, and we need to be able to complete the square to get to the easier form. So I just wanted you to think about how we got this, so we could go the other way. So can you FOIL one more out on your own? Can you do that one?
Yeah.
Might need a calculator. Oh, Scott won't need a calculator.
Is it 256? 16 squared?
Yes,
When?
I need a calculator because I can't subtract. I can give you all the multiplication ones, but the subtracting is my,
169.
What's 169 plus 256?
It's 425.
Oh, that's pretty good. So 424. Oh, she did it already.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
I skipped steps.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sure, Abigail. I wouldn't-
Do you need me to do steps out? Okay,
Abby?
all right, so that was practice for understanding what we're doing when we go this way.
Oh, what do I do?
The first thing we want to do is rearrange this. Remember how it was separated x's and y's when we were doing it the other direction? So we're going to separate these, x squared plus 30x plus blank. And then what?
Oh, X plus 5, 15.
It's plus 225.
Y squared minus 2y plus blank equals, and they did do equals 0. We'd have negative 222 if we move that over, plus a couple blanks on this side.
Oh, it's completed.
Remember doing this last year? Yes, we're completing the square twice.
I never knew to do this.
What do we do with the 30?
We divide it.
Cut it in half. And then to make it equal, we have to square it. 15 squared is, and if we put it on one side, we have to put it on the other side, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So what'll the y's be? Y minus, gotta take half,
One.
and then square it. So what do we get over here?
4.
So the center is,
2. Wait.
Negative 15, 1.
and the radius is 2.
And
That wasn't so bad? Can you try the next one?
I can try.
Okay. Alright, will this be on the easy?
I hope.
Completing the square definitely could be.
You hope so?
There's probably alternative ways to do it. Like, if it was a, you have to complete the square to, for example, find the vertex of a parabola, but you could obviously also just graph it. You know, things like that. This, if it happened to be a circle equation, yeah, you'd probably have to know how to complete the square, but I think they're probably more likely to do something like some of these later, Scott, where it says, here's a center and an area, find the equation, or here's a center and a circumference, or I'm gonna do one where I'm gonna give you 2 points, the ends of the diameter. You have to do midpoint, distance, you know. Sorry. Sorry, my YouTube people, I'm coughing again. Did anybody get 9, or how's it going?
Is it x plus 10 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 18? 18's ugly without that.
I think it does come out funny, though, I remember.
Plus 100.
So how does this go?
X plus 10 squared.
Are we okay with that? It's just half, and then we square it. And then it's half of this one.
The grand old
So we end up with an 8, positive 18 on that side, right?
Yeah.
So the center is at negative 10, 6. And the radius is the square root of 18.
Which is or 3 times the square.
If you had to graph it, square root of 18 is actually nice, right? If I said graph a rough estimate of this, because square root of 18 is close to square root of 16. It's a little more than that, so it would be a little over 4. 3 square roots of 2 just means nothing to me in terms of estimating it. Square root of 18 I can estimate, so. Depends what you wanted to do with it, whether you want to simplify or not. Everybody okay, though? All right, what's wrong with this one?
Yeah, but can you?
Yes.
520?
There's 2 ways you can do this. I'm gonna show you both, okay? And honestly, on the quiz on this stuff, I'm gonna put neither. But I'm gonna show you if we just factored out the 4. So first I'm gonna separate the x's. And the y's. This is how we have to do it later in this chapter 11. We have to do a lot of these, completing the squares with funky things up here, because this one you could have divided everything by 4 because it's a circle. But when it's an ellipse or a hyperbola, you're not going to be able to divide all the way through by one thing until the end of the question. So what you would do is you would factor out the 4. Anybody know 92 divided by 4?
Yeah.
At 20.
Yeah,
Is it
that's
23? I was thinking it was 23.
That's right.
Okay. And back here, when we take out a 4, Now, the issue is, whatever I put in this blank before I move it to the other side has to be multiplied by that 4 before I add it to the other side. Okay? So if this is not nice, can I just write 23 over 2? You can write 11.5 if you want, I don't care.
1/3, oh, that's not
Okay,
bad.
there's still a 4 out here.
Ooh, perfect.
When I square this to put it back up here, I square the top and the bottom, so I think it's 529 over 4.
Yeah.
And you can leave it a decimal, I don't care. But before you add it to the other side, remember there was a 4 out here, so you actually added 529 to that side. Because 4 times 529 divided by 4 is 529. All right, so can anybody help me with this one? This one's a little bit nicer.
25.
Y minus or plus, okay? And when we square it, it's 25, but what did we actually add to that side?
It was 100, so it's 10.
Okay. Now, the radius is not 10
Oh, no.
because we still have to get rid of these 4s over here.
That's gross, I don't like this.
Now, we had some questions, 4th period, they wanted divided everything by 4, but this 4 can just cancel, right? We don't have to divide what's in here by 4, because we can just get rid of that one. So we're gonna have x plus 23 halves, or 11.5, plus y plus 5 equals 25. So what is the radius?
Oh, God, 5.
And the center is at, I don't know, I'll switch to decimals for you. A negative 11.5, right? Negative 5? Yes. All right. The other way we could have done this problem, let's go ahead and do this next one by dividing everything by 4 from the beginning. Doesn't matter when you're doing circles, you can do either way. If we decide to divide all of this by 4, I'm going to try to write it out at once. Is it 24x? I'm just gonna leave that guy negative 441. I skipped a bunch of steps there, are we okay? I divided by 4 and rearranged at the same time. Okay, can you guys try to finish?
So you don't, it is fine, you just divide by the zero back.
Yes, yes, yes. What'd you get on the right-hand side? I just went for the calculator because my head hurts. Too much mental math for me. So the center is at positive 12, positive 1.5 if you went with a decimal, and the radius is 6. Everybody okay, or do I need to go back over? Anybody get something different? Absolutely. Everybody's okay? All right, so these are the kind they could throw on the ACT easily because they're trying to combine a little algebra and a little geometry. area is pi r squared. So if we have 100 pi is equal to pi times the radius squared, that's telling us what?
R is
Radius
10.
is 10.
Okay? R squared is 100, the radius is 10. You really don't need to know that. They like to take those kind of questions and now ask you find the circumference or something. Okay?
We'll put 10 on there.
But
Where's these ones?
if we were actually writing an equation, we would now do x minus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals what?
100.
Yes, 100. Okay, what about 13? Can you try 13 now?
I can try it.
What's the formula for circumference again?
2 pi r. Use just every question you've had.
So we would have what?
Ooh, 8 equals 3. So 9.
Okay, well, x plus 15 squared plus y minus 10 squared is equal to 9.
Everybody okay? And 14? This is actually tricky for a lot of students. I kind of have to think about it really hard. If you were at 16.4 for the center, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're over 16 and up 4.
So would it be 17
Yeah. And you have to go to the right one. What is that going to change?
The x minus the thingy is 17.
Yep, it's going to be at 17.4, so that all that's going to change here is this will become a 17 and you're done.
The radius is still the same?
Yep, because all they did was translate, which means slide
Yeah.
one unit over, didn't change anything else.
So the math wouldn't change at all, would it?
Okay? There's a couple of those on the practice worksheet. It might say like slide down 5 and left 2 or something. You just got to kind of think about what's happening. All right, and this one, what about this guy?
It's
The
x,
radius is 3, that seems right.
x plus 2 squared.
Negative 2, negative 4 is the center.
I agree with Scott.
Are we okay?
I remember doing that.
I'm actually, can I move this? Oh, I can. Yay, that makes me happy. All right, guys, will you write one more example on there somewhere?
Yeah.
On the practice, it has some like this. It says the ends of the diameter go through negative 312, or the ends of a diameter contain the points, or at the points, negative 312 and 7, 4.
That's gross.
Okay, find the equation of the circle. If those are the ends of the diameter. Okay, wait a minute. What do you want to start with?
Distance.
You want to do distance first? I actually always do the midpoint first to find the center. Okay? The midpoint will be the center. Where's the midpoint, guys? Is it 2/8? Okay. Then I like to take that center to one of the endpoints to get the radius. If you use the diameter, you have to remember to divide by 2, and some And sometimes it comes out a radical, and then when you have to divide the radical by 2 to get the radius, and then you have to square, it's just ugly. I like to just use the radius. So from the center to either one of those points is a radius, right?
Yeah.
So now we can just find that distance, and I'm gonna, again, I encourage you to do this in your head. How far is it from 2 to 5, or 2 to 7?
5.
5.
Ooh.
And how far is it from 8 to 4? So this is the radius, but remember in our equation, we really only need the radius squared, right?
Yeah, we do.
So the radius squared is actually 25 plus 16, which is 41?
Oh, man, I'm done. Oh, that makes sense.
Okay. You could square it. The radius is square root of 41, but then you're going to square it again to put in the formula. So the equation of this circle would be x minus 2, y minus 8, because it's at the center, and the 41. Okay? Can you do one of those on the... Sarah, did I lose you? You can square root. It would, the radius is the square root of 41. I just left it squared because remember the formula is equals radius squared. So I just didn't bother, that's all. Yep. Anybody else? Okay, we have 12 minutes left. Can I talk about anything you would like me to talk about for the ACT?
I think you talked about digging it out.
Matrix.
Matrices? What about on the back of the pink sheet? Is there anything there that's looking concerning?
Is there going to be a recursive formula one, or like any formula one that I can't just like count them out because?
Oh, yeah.
I kind of doubt it. If they asked you to find like the explicit formula, just to go over it one time, this is the idea. But remember, you could look at the choices and put in a 1, put in a 2, put in a 3, and see which one gave you the right formula. So, yes, okay?
I had one that wanted like the 8th term, and I just counted.
Yeah, I agree. Yes,
Programs not allowed.
you may use programs.
Okay, because there's things posted on the walls that say programs have to be deleted before you.
Nobody's gonna ask you.
Okay.
And if you go to a testing site somewhere, nobody's gonna ask you.
Okay.
And
And
if
then
they
like,
do,
I know
you have
Hardy
a
told
program
us
and they
at
look
the
like they
AP ACT practice thing that you can have programs, so yeah, mixed messages.
Yes, the ACT book probably, the issue is the proctors don't know how to delete them. I would, but most of the teachers proctoring wouldn't have any clue whether you had them or didn't have them, so, no.
Okay.
And I mean, I've been to conferences where they said, you need to give your kids all the programs you can possibly give them, and they'll do better, and blah, blah. So, ACT is aware that people are using programs.
So
All right.
That's why you give us as many programs as you could possibly give us.
Well,
You have to know how to use it.
yeah, you have to know how to use them, and I'm not gonna take time out of the curriculum to teach you how to use all of them. Honestly, the answer is you do not need a calculator at all to do the ACT. Will it help you? Absolutely. But you don't even, it's written so you don't need a calculator. For example, it'll say find the side of a right triangle, and you need trig. But the choices will look like this. Or it might be, this is the choice. Which one of these would you use to calculate the side of the triangle, okay? That's what the choices will look like because basically it's an economic bias thing. People don't have calculators, should be able to get the same score as you who could afford nice calculators, so. Or whose school has nice calculators. Is there something else you want me to talk about on here, or do you want me to talk briefly about matrices?
Are they going to ask for like horizontal or vertical asymptotes?
Probably not,
Okay.
would be my guess. Yes, okay, okay.
The other thing with like the squares.
I,
I had a question on a practice one about
an ellipse, okay. I'm really briefly talk about ellipses. An ellipse is just like a circle, except it has to equal 1 on the right side. And this down here tells you how far out it goes. So the center would be at 1, 4. This tells you in the x direction it goes out 2. It's the square root of that, okay? So in the x direction it goes 2. And in the y direction it goes square root of this number under here, which is 5. And then it's just an oval, okay? Now, they could ask you, I guess, major axis, minor axis. The major axis is just how long is this, which is 10, because it was 5 up and 5 down. The minor axis is 4, because it was 2 this way and 2 this way, okay? There's something called the focus. I don't think they're going to ask you about the foci,
What's the
the
focus?
focus point. It,
They,
we'll get to it.
they gave me they gave
Yes.
me like that equation, and I had 4 graphs to choose from.
Okay,
And I was like, well, I know where the center is, so I'll just
Right,
guess this one.
right,
There
yep.
were- There were 2 in the same center, but I guess there
okay.
there's like-
But that was enough that it would have helped you. Okay. So maybe there'll be one and you'll remember. What the guys are talking about seeing is a matrix multiplication. This is a matrix. It's just an organization of data, okay? But if you have 2 matrices, there's a way to multiply them on your calculator. Okay. If those were all, let me show you real quick. If those were all numbers, okay, I would go to matrix on my calculator, which is second, and then this guy. I would turn it on first.
Oh, it's a matrix right there, I'm done.
Matrix. I would go into matrix A and say it is a 2 by 2,
Hey, how do you get into that?
and then I would type some numbers in. This one has a 2, a 1, a 4, and I can't put an X in, so I'm going to pretend it was a 5, okay? And then I would quit, because I now have that stored in matrix A. And then I would go back to matrix, and I would go over to edit and down to matrix B, and I'm going to make it a 2 by 2. And I'm going to put in some numbers, 3, 0, 1, and I'll make that a -5, I don't know. Okay? And then I'm going to quit. And then what you would do is you would go matrix A, and you would just put the name on the home screen, times matrix B on the home screen, and it would tell you that's what the answer is. But if they give you X's and Y's, you can't do that. You have to know how to multiply matrices. If you're on math team, Ms. Falzone has shown this a couple times, but it's really weird, okay? It's rows times columns. So it's this row
Oh.
times this column, and that will give you row 1, column 1. And then it's this row times this column will give you row 1, column 2. And then it's this row times this column. Okay, so this is row 1 and this is row 2. Yes, you add the terms as you go. Get rid of this.
So
Ah.
we have to do it for each one? For each, like.
You're going to get 4 answers, yes. This is column 1, column 2. Okay. You do row 1 times column 1. So you do 2 times 3 plus 1 times 1. You take this times this plus this times this. And then you do row 1 times column 2. So it's 2 times 0 plus 1 times A. And then to get row 2, column 1, this entry down here, you do 4 times 3 plus 1 times X. And then you do 4 times 0 plus A times X. So the answer would be 7A, 12 plus X, and AX. No, and it's, you know,
What information
I
do you
would
even
s-
get by reading
let me explain. If these were all numbers, okay, let's put in a whole number like an 8 here. Say this is the number of, at my Red Robin store number 1 and Red Robin store number 2, this is the number of chicken and the number of beef sandwiches sold in a given day, okay? And at Red Robin store number 1 and Red Robin store number 2, these are the amount I charge in dollars for it, or that I pay maybe for a chicken sandwich and a beef sandwich. Apparently the beef at Red Robin 1 are free, okay? If this was a 10. When I multiplied that out, what I would get is my cost for chicken and beef sandwiches at, let's see, I gotta think about this. I did row by column, so it's Red Robin store number by the kind of sandwich, and I multiplied that by the, this should have been chicken and beef, and the dollars up here. So the kind by the dollars. So these cancel out, and I would have gotten Red Robin store 1 and store 2, how much money was spent on chicken and beef.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with United
No.
Okay, because they're on the same.
Yes, no, I'm sorry. No, they just asked a different question. But that's why people use them, like, it's a way of organizing data and multiplying them. We'll do some examples and it'll make some sense eventually, but,
Okay, and that's not gonna be on the ACT, is it?
well,
It might be.
these guys took practice ones and said there was multiplying matrices on there, that's why I went over one. I would say it's like a 1 in 8 chance that there's one on there, but
But you don't even know how they could function. You just need to know like what they, like how to do it. Like how to do it.
yeah, it's not gonna ask you to interpret something.
Yeah, I mean, like, I like.
Yes, you can guess, absolutely. And
You wouldn't need options, you probably wouldn't even look like it. So you just like.
so, and remember, you don't have to get every question right to get a really good score. So there can be a couple things you don't know how to do.
Is there an assignment I have to do before the retake on this quiz?
You need to make corrections, and then I'm gonna have you do the same ones again that you got wrong on the other version. Does that make sense?
Okay.
You don't have to redo the whole thing if you don't want to.
Okay.
Let me see if I have the other version. Let me stop this because I do this every time.
How would they?